All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another rendition of the FSGA interview series. We have two very special guests with us today, the head men's golf coaches of the University of South Florida and the University of North Florida, Steve Bradley and Scott Schroeder. Gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for taking some time to chat with me.
Thanks for having us, Kyle.
Thanks, Kyle.
Yeah. If you can just run us through kind of your background, how you got into golf, how you got into coaching. Steve, you can go ahead and go first.
Yeah, I think mine might be a little bit interesting. I did play golf in high school. I probably was a late bloomer. Was a invited walk-on at Florida State and played there for Coach Lanford for a couple years, and then transferred over to the University of Florida, which is maybe the ultimate sin if you're a Seminole, but. I played 2 years there with Steve Scott and Nick Gillum and Camilo Benedetti, and we had a pretty good team my last couple years there. And then I didn't turn pro. I went into work in the business world, got my degree in finance, and went to work for an IT reseller based out of Chicago. And I was with them for 9 years and was fortunate enough to continue a relationship with Coach Alexander, who I played with at University of Florida. And I had known that coaching was something that I felt like I wanted to do, and finally timing and opportunity presented itself about 9 years later, and he had an opening, and I was the guy. So I coached for him for 3 years as an assistant, and as you can imagine, the amount of information that I learned from him, has done me well. Was a great 3 years. We had some pretty good teams. Got a chance to coach Billy Horschel and Will Strickler, who had their tour cards, and Tyson Alexander, who's on Korn Ferry now, and Andres Echeverria, who's won on Latin Tour. So, just numerous guys that I had the opportunity to learn from really more than anything else, and then got a head coaching opportunity at Mercer. And I was a head coach at Mercer for 3 years, where I competed against Coach Schroeder and the Ospreys quite a bit with us in the ASUN conference at the time. And then 3 years after my stint at Mercer, USF opened up when Coach Malloy went to Ole Miss. And, I've been here ever since. So this will be going into year 7 for me. It seems like it's gone by pretty fast. And Coach Malloy did a good job of getting this thing going in the right direction. And it's a dream come true for me. I'm from Florida. My folks live about 45 minutes away. So this is home for me, and been pretty special start to my career here.
Cool. Thanks, Steve. Scott?
Yeah, I graduated high school down in the Clearwater area and chose to come to University of North Florida. I was recruited by basically UNF, USF, and Florida Southern. And at the time, UNF was a pretty good Division II program. And halfway through my college career here at UNF, we went from a Division II program to a Division I program. I was probably a pretty average college player at best, unlike Coach Bradley. And at the end of my college career, I finished up and really didn't know what I wanted to do. I tried caddying at Pablo Creek. I did a few different things. I ended up being a school teacher for 2 years, and I was fortunate enough that John Brooks, my coach I played for, asked if I wanted to come back and be his assistant. Jumped at the opportunity because I was not enjoying being a school teacher. And did that for about a year and a half. And then he decided he was going to go into his business that he has now. And at that time, the school decided they were going to hire a gentleman named John Sadie to be the head coach. And so I went over and worked for McCumber Golf and ran our facility here for about 2.5 years. And luck came of it. He moved on at an odd time of the year, and I stumbled into the job. And it's now almost 15 years later, I've been in charge here at UNF, and it's been a fun journey going from, taking over a program, and hopefully we've raised it to some levels that allow us to compete against the best schools in the state and the best schools in the country. Unlike Steve, I've basically only lived in Clearwater, Florida, and Jacksonville my entire life. So I've, been here a long time, and I guess this is now home for me.
Cool. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for taking some time. We got obviously a bunch more questions for you, but what have you guys been doing since, we've all been stuck at home, we've all been isolated? I know, obviously the school year is shut down, the golf season is shut down. We would be coming up on the NCAA finals. I know you guys are looking forward. Obviously the team's trying to accomplish that. So I'm assuming the conference finals and such would be winding down or have wound down. But what have you guys been doing what would you have been doing? What would you have been looking forward to? Give us a little insight on what's going on in your life right now.
I believe regionals would have started today. Is that correct, Scott?
Yeah, today we'd be right now stressing out, hitting refresh, and about the 5th hole at regionals right now.
And it's tough not to look and see what if, had this whole thing not happened. And speaking specifically for myself, I've got 2 daughters, 4th and 2nd grade, so I've become a school teacher, and I can see why they feel like they deserve more money than they currently are being paid. And I probably see why Scott did not enjoy being a school teacher, because if they didn't listen to you when you were a parent, they're definitely not listening to you when you're their parent and their teacher. So it's been quite a eye-opening learning experience for me, from being a dad and a husband, and trying to navigate that whole situation. But as far as coaching is concerned, we haven't been able to do much. Obviously, we can't recruit. We had weekly Zoom calls with the guys. We did some weekly fun homework assignments and talking about the year and some of their better experiences, what they learned, summer schedule, what they're going to work on this summer with their coaches, class scheduling, finals, all that stuff. And then as we progress into the summer, we're a little bit more limited on what we can do with them. But I guess in a way, we've tried to kind of make it as business as usual. Those are the things that would have happened face to face. But just more importantly, so they know that there's somebody there, and if they want to talk to somebody, and we've got group text and group me's and all that stuff going on. We talked a lot, obviously, yesterday about golf being back and on TV, and it was fun to kind of have that dialogue going with the guys. And we were fortunate enough to be able to go down there this past January and play Seminole and see it for the first time. So it was fun for the guys to, I think, kind of watch those guys play, struggle at times, which is what our guys did as well. So, you've tried to maintain business as usual, but clearly it's different.
Yeah, I mean, very similar for us. My guys have been playing with each other. Still I think of my guys on the team, the 10 of them, there's 8 of them that live here in Jacksonville. So they're still around each other, which is really good, because during this time of uncertainty, I mean, more things you can do that are similar, the better. For us as a team, finished up school. I mean, I got encouraged a few of them would take more summer classes than normal, because they don't know if they're going to have tournaments over the summer. So you might as well get ahead in school. For me personally, similar to Steve, I got a daughter, 15. She plays golf. I've probably played more golf in the last 2 months than I probably had played in the previous 3 years combined, which is good and bad for my golf game. But I think at the end of the day, like right now, for everybody, as many things as you can do that are as close to normal, the better. And that's what we've been trying to do with our kids, is because at some point we're going to get past this, and they're going to get to be able to play competitive golf, and they're going to get to be around their friends. And so it's been good to see them in the same thing as Steve. I think the amount of groups, the texts I had yesterday from the guys, was good to see them, picking on guys that are elite players and what college kids do and all that. Makes it just fun, because that's close to normal. That's like a van ride, and they're giving each other the needle a little bit, and that's what they were doing on the text messages. And the more and more we can get back to that, the better.
Yep. Jumping into the next topic. This is a little bit, I guess, of the FSGA plug I got to put in here. Recently, the FSGA has purchased 2 Trackman, and we've updated our website to create basically an advanced player profile. These Trackman Combines we've been doing for our players over the past year or so is really just to get more information to you guys, the coaches, because we want to provide you with everything, any outlet that you can to help you recruit our players here. We're willing to do that. So we've got Trackman Combines. We've created an advanced player profile, which is really brand new, just opened up about a week or 2 ago. I'm not sure if you guys have even seen it yet, but some of the juniors now, when they log into their account for the first time, it's asking them to update this information. And then obviously they decide if they want it visible to the coaches. But it's just, background information on them, background information on their parents. What are they looking for in a school, GPA, suggested major, things like that. So speak a little bit on how that information helps you guys learn a little bit more about a junior golfer, or if that information is helpful to you in recruiting and looking at players.
Right. Yeah, Kyle, I think you and your staff have done a tremendous job in seeking feedback from coaches and understanding what it is that we look for, not only at a junior recruits, but, what helps us evaluate who we think is going to be good from 18 to 20 to 22 years old. And that's really what it comes down to is trying to put together with your help the information, whether through the Trackman Combine, going to events and recruiting, is trying to evaluate who you think is going to project to be a pretty good player and whose game will kind of take that step to the next level. It's great to be good at 13 and 14 years old if you're bigger than everybody and hit it farther than everybody. But, how are you going to be at 18 to 22 when you're not the best player on the team? And it is a team environment. So I have not had a chance to look at the advanced thing. I know that it's something that we talked about, and I think, we communicated with, and I think all those topics are extremely, extremely helpful for us. But the Trackman Combine stuff is very important. It's something that, we do at USF with our current guys, and it's the data from, where their best yardages are to their ball speed, to their swing speed. And then we can evaluate that versus our guys versus what the tour guys are. And I think, unfortunately for golfers, they see the pros every Sunday and they watch the final groups and they see the guys that are lighting it up that week, and they don't see the numerous guys that miss the cut or the guys that are shooting 78 on a Saturday or Sunday. They're showing the guys that are on. And junior golfers constantly are evaluating themselves against, the best of the best. And the truth is that's not a fair evaluation or a fair critique for themselves. And our guys are guilty of it as well. I mean, somebody hits a 6-iron 20 feet and our guys are upset about it. But, on tour, that is average or even better than average, So having reality and expectations, I think the Trackman helps with all that process as well, as not only for us evaluating them, but also, hopefully setting their expectations of how they're doing versus what the tour is doing.
Right.
Yeah, I'd like to add, I think Steve touched on a lot of great points there. I think the other thing that a lot of kids can get out of that is, like, you got me and Steve on here. There's 7 or 8 other coaches in the state of Florida that are able to look at this information. But I think the other thing that you guys do this is great is the amount of schools that now can recruit Florida kids that aren't in Florida, and they may be able to see a swing or two, and then it allows them some insight that allows them to compare them and see their prospects. I mean, let's be honest, the FSGA, the Florida Junior Tour's got hundreds of kids playing in it, and there's only so many opportunities in the state of Florida. And many of the coaches in Florida do a great job of coming out and seeing the kids in person, but the Trackman numbers, all the data that you all have on the site is great for our kids, because there's some kids that don't want to go to school in Florida. Right. They want to go to experience cold weather. They want a different academic experience. And I think that part of it is really, really good also for the kids to be able to get exposure.
Kyle, I'd be interested, and I don't know if you guys have done this, to maybe go back over the last, 5 to 7 years and show where your FJT players have gone and how many different schools outside of the state of Florida, because what Coach Schroeder is talking about is spot on. And players that want to go Midwest cold weather, players that want to go out to the West Coast. I mean, whether it's for family reasons or personal reasons, academic reasons, I think, between California, Texas, and Florida, we got the 3 best golf states in the country. And you guys run a tour that is second to none, and you should be extremely proud of that. But I think, one of the feathers in your caps would be, with the exposure of all this stuff going on, here's not just the state of Florida schools, like Scott was saying, but here's, the entire United States is a recruiting opportunity for you.
Yeah, we have a lot of that information, and with the, the NLI, and when they're all signing and sending stuff into us, we've got a pretty good base on who's going where for this part.
Yeah, I think it also helps, Kyle. It helps the kids that are blossoming and haven't had a ton of success. I mean, everybody knows the kids that have had the success, the names are at the top of the leaderboards, but the kids that are in the middle of the pack that are trying to get better and working hard and showing that commitment and seeing those numbers change can be really good exposure for those kids.
And especially right now with everything going on with the 2021s that maybe have probably been hurt the most because of the extended 5th year of eligibility that the NCAA has provided. Those players in that 2021 class who are late bloomers, who might not have that opportunity, who might not get eyes on them this summer in their final summer, year or senior summer, to to make a name for themselves, your tools, Trackman, all that stuff is going to help them get some exposure and possibly some opportunities to play college golf.
Good. It's nice to hear that. Simple question. What are you guys looking for in a recruit? When you're recruiting, what are you looking at? What are you looking for?
Well, I mean, I think that's a magic question. I think every coach has their own little philosophy. I can tell you, I think it's really important, the presentation of what a kid looks like, how they handle themselves. I think every coach cares about that stuff. Everybody thinks golf swings are a little bit different. You know, all the coaches in Florida might like a strong left hand or a weak left hand or a shaft doing this or that. But I think the one trait that I think everybody wants to see is how a kid handles adversity, how they act on the golf course, and then how they present themselves. Because that's what we're going to present them to our donors, our community, and just everything we do within our program.
Yeah, I mean, Scott's right on there. You know, technique wise, I mean, I think Scott's one of the best coaches in the country with him knowing what his strong suits are as a coach, his university and his program. I mean, you look some of the players that have gone through there who have not had textbook golf swings, and Kevin Allen comes to mind with him, and you know what he was able to accomplish in college. There's not a perfect sauce or perfect formula, and some of it's a little bit luck, but you know, if you get guys that believe in what you're doing and want to be part of your university first and foremost, be part of your golf program, who buy into each other, who are willing to work hard to accomplish team goals. Because when it comes to college, the team goal is the team championship, the NCAA championship. That's what it's about. I mean, I hate to say it, I'd rather have a team win first and my guy finish second individually. You know, I mean, there's so much more joy in that van ride coming back or that trip coming back when the entire team has accomplished something.
Right.
And, you know, when you get people that buy into what you're trying to do, because it's 4 years of a lot of hours together, you know, that's really what you're looking for. And it takes time to evaluate that. Yeah, you see us on the golf course evaluating swings and watching how guys, you know, perform and everything like that. But you also try to understand their family dynamics and their parents. I'll admit that recruiting their parents is also part of what goes into my process, and how those parents interact with their players, how the kids interact with their players, how the kids interact with volunteers. As Scott said, you know, these guys are ambassadors of our programs for 4 years and hopefully afterwards. And I think that's a reflection on who we are as individuals and coaches as well.
Talk a little bit about the need for a balanced schedule. I mean, I'm sure you guys know, but there's parents and families and players out there that think they need to play in everything, think they need to travel the country. There's obviously families that can't do that have to play locally. Talk a little bit about the idea of a balanced schedule, and how important it is to really learn to compete and learn to win, whether that be locally or as you grow.
Yeah, I mean, I think winning is important in each step of the way. If you look at all successful people, they win at a younger age, win at the next level, and you move up as you get successful. I think the traveling nationally perspective of it, that's a matter of what you're trying to accomplish. I mean, if you know you're going to stay and go to school in Florida, Georgia, Alabama, North Carolina, well, you probably don't need to be playing tournaments in California and Oklahoma and Illinois. So I think that's, to me, at least some of that revolves around, like, where do you want to see yourself going to college? You know, if you want to go to play in the Northeast, well, you probably need to go play some tournaments in the Northeast, so those coaches might actually have a chance to watch you, because they are only going to be able to see so much off of the Trackman numbers and all that stuff that you all have on the site. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's about playing, it's about getting better, and everybody's driven a little bit differently. Some kids go through the process where they want to compete every week, and that's what allows them, because they're not very mechanical. And some kids are going to go through stages of development where they're going to work on their golf swing, they go play a tournament, come back with their instructor, work on a golf. So I think it's a matter of figuring out what's best for you, and talk to people and figure out what's best for you. Because there's a lot of kids right now that I think they want to do it a different way, but their instructor says they have to do it this way. Well, it's, to me, I think the kids need to take ownership in what they want to do at 15, 16, 17 years old, and try to encourage their parents and their instructors to say, well, I really don't want to play a tournament. I need to work on my golf game more. I need to play more tournaments. So every person's different on that for me.
Yeah, and I agree with Scott there. And even I found that through the recruiting process, kids and parents are asking coaches what they think they should be playing in. And I think that's important as well. Obviously, we're not going to be able to get to each and every event with our limited recruiting days now that's in place and our recruiting calendar. But, don't be afraid to play in the St. Lucie Am, even though it's not an FJT or an AJGA. Don't feel the need to go chase the AJGA all around the country, because the truth is there's going to be 5 AJGAs during 1 week of the summer, and there might not be any coaches there, right? So I think it's on the parents, on the players more than anything else, the junior recruits, to understand, like Scott said, what they're trying to accomplish. Are they trying to get notarized? Are they trying to shoot scores? Are they chasing stars? I don't know. I think that you got to be competitive in everything you do. And if you're going to tee it up in your club championship, your goal is to win that and put a feather in your cap for that. And if you're going to go play, a 13 to 15 at Juliet Falls, then your goal is to go win that. Right. And so I just think that the more you compete, the better it is. I don't think you need to compete every week, but you need to go out with the expectation that you're trying to win each and every week and trying to accomplish something as far as getting better.
Appreciate that info, guys. Let's say that there is an FJT this weekend that you guys are planning on heading over to. What's your schedule? What's your agenda? Do you know who you're looking at prior to? Have you ever been blown away by somebody that wasn't on your radar while you were watching somebody else at an event? And then finally, I know this is a long question, but when you're on site at an event, what are the limitations? What are the regulations on who you can talk to and who you can't?
Well, the first part of that, I think it changes from who it is, who's there, and where you stand in the recruiting process. I personally will go, if I have certain list of guys, I'm gonna go watch them first. And then you always want to see a kid make a swing. So if hypothetical, a kid just won an FJT last week and I've never seen him make a swing, I'm going to go see him make some swings. But that varies from event to event. So it's a matter of who I've seen, who I haven't seen, and that's a constant flow from event to event. The second part of that, excuse me, I think, I think at the end of the day, we're just always trying to find guys that are being successful. What was the back half of that question, Kyle? I missed it.
The second part of it was just about the NCAA limitations on,
Yep.
Talking to players or talking to parents or who you're able to be in touch with while you're on site.
Yeah, we're really not allowed to talk to hardly anybody anymore, which is good for us. And basically, I think it's good for the kids and the parents as well. Outside of a greeting, when a kid reaches their junior year, then that changes a little bit, and we can start having some conversations and talking a little bit off-site and then on-site when they get to their senior year. But for the most part, right now, we're in we're especially those younger kids, we're just watching, and we can't talk to them; they can't talk to us.
Okay.
Yes. We do an extensive amount of research, I'd say, before going to an event. And there are different services that we can subscribe to that evaluates kids based off of class, based off of state, if we're going to do an international event or a bigger event in the United States. I think that all of us are trying to come with as much information as possible, because we are limited by recruiting days now at 45. So when you are going there, it's important, you're sharing those days with your assistant as well. So, we don't want to just go spin our wheels, but also at the same time, I take a little pride in it, and I think Scott's really good at it. And I think Bryce from UCF's really good at it. I love being the first one on the range in the morning and getting a chance to kind of walk the range and just look at guys without even knowing who they are and without even understanding, what their name is or what their bag is, and just trying to identify maybe the way a ball sounds or the club head speed that a kid generates. And then maybe doing some more research later on. I think Scott's probably in the same boat, as us. We recognize that probably our sweet spot of talent are to be guys that continue to get better through their sophomore, junior years of high school and continue to develop in college. And we might not get the number one player from the state of Florida each and every class. But we're recruiting early, and then you watch them grow and develop, and you make some notes each time you get a chance to watch them on maybe some things they do well or things they need to improve upon. But I think it's obviously the lifeblood of what our program is recruiting. So it's very serious what we do, and we put a lot of time into what we're trying to do. And I think that's the fun, right? There's competitiveness for us. I mean, and Scott and I battle head to head over certain guys, and then there's certain guys that might be in the state of Florida, and he and I have differences of opinions on, right? I mean, so it's all to each their own, but I think that's part of the competition for us too.
You guys helping each
Kyle,
other out in those situations too, where like you see somebody that, maybe you don't have a spot, Steve, but Scott's got an available spot that you think somebody might fit in the program. Are you talking to each other and saying like, hey, here's somebody you should go check out? Or
I'm not sending
Probably-
him to North Florida. He's going to beat me.
Yeah.
No, I think, our coaching fraternity, we meet so many good young players that we just don't have a spot for. So we do try to help each other out, or, maybe if it's not in Division I in the state of Florida, where else do we have connections? And it could be, so, I mean, we want the best for these young men, and sometimes USF is not for them, or UNF's not for them. What's next for them if they're not quite good enough for us and where we are, where can we help them at that point? And so I think we're all in it for the same reason, and it's the betterment of college golf and the betterment of these young men.
But I would add, Kyle, I think Steve mentioned it. It's the lifeblood to our program. So there's been times I can honestly tell you, I don't watch a guy because I like him too much, so I don't want other people to see me watching him. And I guarantee you, Steve's been in the same boat, because if you're successful at what you do, and you're watching a kid, and somebody's like, well, who is that kid? They're going to start to watch him. I'll never forget. I'll use one of our best, Sean Dale, back in our program. I'm watching him at the U.S. Junior, and all of a sudden, Buddy Alexander showed up, and I'm like, oh, he hasn't watched him in 2 years, and I've been watching him. But so at some point, you do have to be careful what you're watching, because you don't want to let other coaches lead. It is the lifeblood, and it's our NFL draft. So sometimes you got to throw decoys and just do different things. But once you're full, I think Steve's right. You're going to try to help a kid find the right spot for them.
how are you guys' feelings on when you see, because this happens a lot in junior golf, it's one of the biggest problems, at least that I see talking with other associations and reporting scores to Junior Golf Scoreboard and things like this. How do you feel about when you guys see a junior golfer not return a scorecard or withdraw after a bad round? How do you guys perceive that?
I think the first thing is you got to know the context of what happened. If they're just playing poorly and they don't want to post a score because it affects their ranking, that's a huge red flag, and that's a huge no-no. And is that the kid making that decision? Is it the parents making the decision because they don't want to affect the recruitability of their son or daughter? There are times where people are sick or they get injured, and I certainly understand that. Albin Bergstrom, was our best player last year, was an honorable mention All-American, our first event up at the farm. He goes up and he hurts his shoulder in the start of the third round and shoots 87. About 87. But he posted a score. I was proud of him for it. He was injured, and that took him out of any All-American stuff this year, but he didn't quit. He didn't quit on himself. He didn't quit on his team. And so you've got to have people that have the ability to fight through certain things, because it's bigger than just them. And, you want to see that early on, because when it gets to college, you don't want them quitting on you. You don't want them quitting on their teammates, whatever it may be. So, I think it's very important that they continue to try to fight through if they can, but also understand that they've got to be safe if it is an injury.
Yeah, you can probably get away with a one-off here or there where you have a withdrawal or something like that. But if you got 3 or 4 over a couple year stretch, that's a red flag. And like Steve mentioned, we're gonna dig into it. Was he sick? But if the kid's always sick, well, at some point, we all play sick at some point with cough, flu, whatever it might be. But I think it's an important thing to, posting a score is really important, because at the end of the day, we have to count 4 or 5. So we need to know that a guy's going to figure out a way to finish, because if we don't count 4 or 5, we take last place, which doesn't do us any good.
Okay. Yeah. And for me, obviously I've seen some really good experience. And I remember one particular, I was up in a panhandle for FJT, and this girl shot a 92 the first day and came back and shot 72 the next day. And I know, or at least if I was a coach, in my opinion, that would be something that would impress me a lot, the way that, you can have a tough day, because sometimes you're going to go out and shoot 85, it's going to happen. So that bounce back ability is something that if I were a coach that I'd be looking strongly into.
Correct.
Yeah. We mentioned it a few times in this conversation, but I'll ask a question about it. I mean, parents are they obviously need to be very involved in the recruiting process because they're most likely paying for their kid to go to school. How involved should they actually be?
I don't know. I don't know if Scott and I agree or disagree on this, but I'd like them to be as little involved as possible. The communication should come from, I don't like an email from the parent saying my son, little Johnny, is interested in your program, this, that, and the other. I mean, kids these days, I mean, my 10-year-old has an iCloud email account. She could email somebody if she wanted to. So, they need to take ownership, even if it doesn't have to come across as a perfect letter, even if the phone call and they're really nervous, or a text message or whatever may be. They have to take ownership in what they're interested in. And we're the ones communicating with them. We're recruiting each other. It's a two-way street. Certainly the parents need to be involved financially, but I think a lot of that has to do with the young man, and that's part of the development of who they are. I think that our sport introduces us to older people at an earlier age, whether it's through their golf clubs they get a chance to play with. And so their maturity level typically should be a little higher maybe than some other sports. So I like to see that shine through. And I've also encouraged recruits and their parents to let their son or daughter give them a budget of what it's going to cost to go play in a golf tournament, and have them do research on a hotel and what their food's going to be and everything like that. Help them appreciate the value of a dollar, and understanding what their parents are sacrificing or paying for them to go play in a golf tournament every weekend or every other weekend, and just how much they're giving up of that.
Yeah, I would say in the recruiting process, I'm very similar to Steve. I want to talk to the kid. At the end of the day, the parents don't matter that much outside of just me getting to know them a little bit. When my kids come play for me, I try to have a really good relationship with the parents, because I want the kids' parents to feel welcome to come and watch their kids play and be at tournaments. And I mean, our roster is 95% Floridian kids, so all the parents hopefully know each other, and it's just a bit of a traveling circus, I guess you could get to say. With we have parents coming to watch and this and that. The parents after the round go their way and eat, and we go our way and eat. So I think every coach on that for you, Kyle, will be very, very different, because everybody has different philosophies, and that's one of those. I think you'll see some that are way more where the coaches talk to the parents, and you're gonna have some that they don't want to talk to them at all. I know some coaches in our industry that have zero interest in ever talking to a parent.
All right, we're winding down here. I've got one more question, then we'll jump into some rapid fire questions. Give me your most memorable moment as a coach.
That's tough. You typically would associate memorable stuff as winning or accomplishments, and to say one more than any other. But we've been fairly successful at USF and getting a match play. That final round at Concession in 2015 was pretty special for our program. It had never been done. But I'll be honest with you. I think going back to 2014 ASUN Conference Championship, and I was at Mercer at the time, and that was the first time Mercer had ever won a conference championship. They had ever made it to the postseason. That was a pretty special victory for our team and memorable moment, because it had been several years in the making. And when I got there, we were 105 in the country, and that year I think we finished the year ranked 31 or 32 in the country. So we had an incredible year. But they're all, and it doesn't even have to be a victory. I mean, there's little moments throughout the season that you remember, and believe it or not, I'm kind of an emotional guy, and I find myself tearing up in the middle of a round, for good and bad. When you lose and you don't make it out of regionals, that's an emotional moment. So there's so many things. These guys work so hard. We work so hard all year, several years in the making, to give yourselves opportunities. And it's awesome to see them come through in particular situations, because they've trained so hard for it.
Yeah, I think Steve's right. I mean, there's so many. We've been fortunate to have so many successes that you remember, bits and pieces about all of them. I think my most memorable was actually probably one of the more disappointing days as well. You know, we teed off, I think it was in 2012, the final round in NCAAs, and we only played 3 rounds to make match play, and we're tied for third. And, you know, for a school like UNF to be tied for third at that point was something that was really, really cool. And we ended up missing match play, and that's obviously the NCAAs that Jordan Spieth and Texas beat Alabama on. And every time they show those highlights, I'm like, God, we could have been in the match play that day. And it's just one of those. It's like, well, that's our goal. I mean, we preach it every year, and I would imagine Steve saying the same thing. The goal is to get the match play, because if you get the match play, you have a chance to win a national championship. And I think that's the coolest thing about college golf and match play is all you have to do is be one of the top 8, and you can chase that dream.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you guys. I'm going to run through some rapid fire questions, and then we'll sign off here. Quickly, I'm going to read them off and just give me, an answer. You can just kind of blur it out, whoever's ready. What course is on top of your bucket list?
Augusta.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. Augusta, Pine Valley, Seminole, all that.
We're sitting at home now, kind of nothing going on, flipping through Netflix and things like that. What are you watching? Are you watching anything specifically on TV?
I'm embarrassed to admit I just watched Outer Banks on Netflix, but I've been watching Mayans as well.
Okay.
I'm on Ozark on Netflix.
Okay. When you're out on the golf course, those times you actually get to play, what's the go-to snack? Is it like Bud Light or something like that, or?
We can't be doing that right now. Scott Schroeder and I did play some golf this past week. It's the first round I've played since 2018, but I enjoy a good Snickers bar on the golf course. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I can do anything that's chocolatey.
Are you guys into music? What's your favorite musician?
Eminem for me.
Okay.
I'm more country, so I'd probably be more like Luke Combs.
How many rounds of golf do you get to play in a year on average? I know Scott's been playing a lot more recently.
Yeah, normally about 25 for me, but right now I'm about 45 into the quarantine. So
nice.
I typically play 5 to 10 a year, usually in some sort of booster scramble function. That's kind of more my speed, but like I said, we did play last week. I had a really good time and kind of got the bug back. So I have a feeling with no recruiting this summer, I might get an opportunity to play a little bit more.
Cool. Favorite club in the bag?
Right now it's a driver for me. In college, it was definitely not the driver.
Definitely not the driver for me right now or ever.
One last question here. If you could go back in time to be at any historical moment in golf, where would you go?
Oh, wow. That's a good one. 86 Masters for me, Jack Nicklaus.
I probably would. Yeah, I was going to say 97 and Tiger and just what happened there. I mean, I was in college at the time we were playing it, and it just, I don't know, just everything that happened with it and since then, and that was the start of it all. I mean, that would have been cool to experience live.
Cool. Well, that kind of wraps things up on our end. Coach, we thank you guys for taking some time. I know you briefly mentioned that the recruiting process is going to be down a little bit for this summer with everything going on, but we'll do everything we can to keep you guys locked in when we start running events again. And I'm sure we'll see you guys again out there soon. But thank you for taking a few minutes. We really appreciate it. The FSGA appreciates everything that you guys do and coming out and supporting us. So I'm sure all the players and parents and our junior golfers do as well. So thank you for taking a few minutes to chat with us, guys.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, Kyle.
All right. Thanks so much.